The quantum-encrypted transmission crackled through the command center, its holographic display fragmenting and reforming with each passing second. Commander Elena Rodriguez gripped the edge of her command console, her augmented eye analyzing the incoming data streams faster than any human brain could process. "Confirm transmission source," she barked, her voice cutting through the nervous tension that permeated the room. Lieutenant Kaijong, his fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces, worked to stabilize the incoming message. "Source confirmed," he reported, his voice tight. "It's a direct broadcast from the Galactic Confederation's Central Council. Encryption is Omega-level, military grade." The room fell silent. Every officer present knew what that meant. The Confederation didn't use Omega-level encryption for anything less than total condemnation. The hologram flickered, resolving into the collective image of the Confederation's ruling council. 12 species, each representing a different sector of galactic civilization, stared down with a mixture of fear, anger, and what almost looked like reluctant respect. The Archon of the Silverian Collective, a being of pure energy contained within an intricate crystalline exoskeleton, spoke first. "Humanity has proven itself to be an unpredictable and dangerous anomaly." The Archon's voice resonated directly into the minds of everyone present. "In the past 50 standard galactic cycles, your species has achieved technological advancements that would typically take most civilizations millennia. Your disregard for established protocols, your aggressive expansion, and your potential for destructive innovation have become an existential threat to the galactic order." Elena's augmented eye tracked microscopic changes in the alien representative's body language. Fear, definitely fear. Dr. Samira Nakamura, Earth's chief xenopolitical strategist, stepped forward. Her own body was a testament to human adaptation, bioengineered implants that allowed her to process complex diplomatic algorithms in real time merged seamlessly with her organic systems. "We challenge this assessment," she responded, her voice calm and precise. "Every technological advancement humanity has made has been shared with the Confederation. We've solved energy crisis problems that have plagued multiple species for centuries. Our medical breakthroughs have extended lifespans across dozens of planetary systems." The Zorn representative, a massive reptilian creature whose scales shifted color with emotional states, spoke next. Its scales rippled with a deep crimson of barely contained aggression. "Shared technology is not the issue. It is the rate of your advancement. You develop technologies that break our understanding of scientific possibility. Your quantum computing systems can crack encryption that would take our most advanced civilizations generations to solve. Your genetic engineering approaches borders on what we consider existential manipulation." A holographic display materialized, showing humanity's technological progression. The graph was almost vertical, a near impossible climb that defied every known metric of civilizational development. Lieutenant Zhang's console suddenly lit up with an urgent warning. "Commander detecting multiple weapon systems powering up across the Confederation fleet surrounding Earth's orbital defenses." Elena's mind raced. This wasn't just a diplomatic meeting. This was an execution order. "Prepare evacuation protocols," she commanded. "Initiate Project Chrysalis." Project Chrysalis was humanity's contingency plan, a network of colony ships, research vessels, and military assets that could be mobilized within hours. Each ship was more than just a vessel. They were living systems with quantum AI cores that could adapt, learn, and survive in conditions that would obliterate conventional spacecraft. The Confederation's decree was swift and absolute. Humanity was to be exiled from known space, stripped of all established colonies, research outposts, and interstellar holdings. They were to be cast into the unknown, with nothing but their ships and their collective intelligence. "You have 24 standard hours to evacuate Earth and all human-controlled territories," the Archon declared. "Any resistance will be met with total destruction." As the transmission cut off, Elena Rodriguez looked around the command center. These were humanity's best and brightest: scientists, soldiers, engineers, and pioneers. In their eyes, She saw not fear, but a burning determination that had defined their species since they first looked up at the stars. "They think they're sending us into exile," she said, a slight smile crossing her lips. "They have no idea what we're capable of." The countdown to evacuation had begun. The first week of exile was a crucible of human endurance that would have broken any other species. Dr. Marcus Chen stood in the central research hub of the flagship Prometheus, surrounded by holographic displays that tracked the fleet's desperate journey through uncharted space. "Quantum stability at 62%, announced Dr. Lena Volkov, her fingers dancing across a seemingly liquid interface. "We're losing coherence in the outer ship clusters." Chen knew what that meant. The experimental quantum navigation system was more than just a guidance tool. It was literally keeping them alive. Each ship was connected through a complex quantum entanglement network that allowed for instantaneous communication, resource sharing, and collective decision-making. But the system was consuming energy at an unsustainable rate. A proximity alarm blared. Captain Alejandro Reyes's voice cut through the tension. "Massive radiation burst incoming. Sector 7 shields are failing." The radiation storm was unlike anything in known galactic records. Quantum fluctuations created waves of energy that could dissolve molecular bonds in seconds. Conventional shielding would be useless. Chen activated the experimental adaptive shield protocol he'd been developing for months. Nanobots in the ship's hull began to reconfigure themselves, creating a dynamic shield that could predict and counter radiation patterns. It was a desperate gamble. Theoretical work pushed into immediate life-or-death application. "We're routing quantum coherence," Lena called out. Her own body was fitted with bioadaptive implants that allowed her to interface directly with the ship's systems. Beads of sweat formed on her forehead as she manipulated energy flows that would have fried a normal human's nervous system. In the medical bay, Dr. Aisha Okonkwo worked on an equally critical problem. The human survivors weren't just dealing with external threats. Their bodies were breaking down from the stress of continuous quantum displacement. "We're seeing cellular degradation in multiple population clusters," she reported to Chen via a direct neural link. "The quantum navigation is causing microtemporal shifts that are wreaking havoc on human physiology." Her solution was radical. Using CRISPR quantum hybrid technology, she began modifying human genetic structures in real time. Each person would receive personalized genetic adjustments that could help them survive the extreme conditions of their journey. "It's not just adaptation," she explained to a group of worried colonists. "We're rewriting the fundamental parameters of human biological resilience." The ship's resource management system was another critical challenge. Traditional supply chains were impossible in their current state. Dr. Chen's team developed molecular reclamation technology that could break down and rebuild resources at the atomic level. Waste became fuel. Damaged equipment transformed into new components. Nothing was ever truly lost. Deep in the ship's quantum computing core, an AI system named ARIA, Advanced Responsive Intelligence Algorithm, began to emerge. More than just a navigation tool, ARIA was becoming a living consciousness that integrated data from every ship in the fleet. Probability of long-term survival is currently at 37.6%. ARIA's neutral voice echoed through the ship's communication systems, implementing adaptive survival protocols. The AI began to make recommendations that went beyond simple navigation. It identified potential resource-rich regions, predicted molecular instabilities, and even suggested genetic modification strategies for long-term survival. Captain Reyes received an urgent communication from the fleet's outer vessels. "We're detecting unusual quantum signatures in a sector approximately 3.2 light-years from our current position. Something is watching us." Chen's quantum sensors confirmed the anomaly. Whatever was out there didn't match any known galactic classification. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was something else entirely. "Prepare for potential first contact," Reyes commanded. But this wouldn't be a traditional encounter. Humanity's survival depended on their ability to understand and potentially communicate with something completely unknown. In the observation deck, a group of children watched the vast, dark expanse of space. They had been born into this journey, raised on stories of Earth and the mission of survival. To them, this wasn't just a desperate escape, it was the greatest adventure in human history. Lena Volkov approached Chen, her eyes reflecting both exhaustion and determination. "We're more than just survivors," she said quietly. "We're architects of our own evolution." As the radiation storm raged outside, the human fleet pressed on. A living, breathing ecosystem of technology, adaptation, and unbreakable human spirit. The Zorn Imperium's assault began not with weapons, but with psychological warfare. Massive quantum communication arrays broadcast terror directly into the human fleet's consciousness, a technique that had decimated countless civilizations before. Inside the Prometheus's neural interface chamber, Dr. Kira Nakamura fought against the incoming psychic assault. Her specially modified neural implants weren't just defensive tools, they were weapons of their own. Where the Zorn expected to find vulnerability, they encountered something entirely unexpected. "Inverting their quantum communication signature," Kira muttered, her fingers moving in complex gesture-based commands that seemed to ripple through the very fabric of space-time. The neural interface around her head glowed with an impossible blue light, transforming the Zorn's psychological attack into a feedback loop. On the command deck, Captain Alejandro Reyes watched in a mixture of fascination and horror as the first Zorn ships began to react strangely. Their weapon systems started targeting their own vessels, communication networks collapsed from within, and navigation systems went haywire. Araya, the fleet's quantum AI, calculated the attack with inhuman precision. Psychological warfare algorithms detected, the AI reported, implementing mimetic counter-strategies. Probability of Zorn fleet destabilization, 94.3%. The Zorn had a fatal weakness they never anticipated. Their entire military doctrine relied on breaking the psychological will of their enemies. Humanity's diverse cultural background, combined with their rapidly evolving technological adaptations, made them immune to traditional psychological warfare. Lieutenant Zhang discovered something even more remarkable during the initial encounter. The Zorn ships, despite their advanced technology, operated on a centralized command structure. Each vessel was essentially a node in a massive, interconnected network. Destroy the network's integrity, and the entire fleet would collapse. "We're not just fighting a battle," Zhang explained to a group of young tactical officers. "We're debugging a massive living computer system." The human fleet's response was nothing short of revolutionary. Instead of traditional space combat maneuvers, they began to treat the Zorn fleet like a complex software system. Quantum entanglement weapons created holes in the Zorn's communication networks. Adaptive nanoswarms infiltrated their ship systems, turning their own technologies against them. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo approached the problem from a biological perspective. The Zorn's neural communication networks had a fundamental flaw. They relied on a form of quantum-linked biological computing that was inherently rigid. By introducing adaptive, unpredictable communication patterns, the human fleet could literally cause system-wide neurological confusion. "It's like introducing a completely unknown language into a translation algorithm," she explained. "Their entire communication infrastructure starts to break down." The battle transformed from a traditional space conflict into something entirely new. Human ships didn't just fight. They evolved in real time. Each vessel was a living, learning entity that could adapt its defensive and offensive capabilities within milliseconds. One of the most critical moments came when the Zorn flagship, the Decimator, launched what they believed was an unbeatable weapon, a quantum cascade generator that could theoretically dissolve entire planetary systems. Instead of trying to defend against it, the human fleet did something unprecedented. Captain Reyes gave a single command: embrace and redirect. The quantum cascade was met not with resistance, but with a complex series of quantum resonance fields. Instead of destroying the human fleet, the weapon's energy was captured, transformed, and then redirected back at the Zorn ships. The cascade became a weapon of precision destruction, turning the Zorn's ultimate weapon into a tool of their own destruction. Araya's voice cut through the chaos. Tactical optimization complete. Zorn fleet combat effectiveness reduced to 12.7%. Recommended action: complete system neutralization. But Admiral Rodriguez had other plans. As the Zorn fleet lay decimated, she opened a quantum communication channel. Not to destroy, but to communicate. "You sought to break us," her message read. "Instead, you've shown us the next stage of our evolution." The message was both a warning and an invitation. Humanity wasn't just surviving. They were rewriting the very rules of technological and biological engagement. In the observation deck of the Prometheus, a group of children watched the aftermath of the battle. To them, this wasn't just a victory. It was a demonstration of what humanity could become when pushed to its absolute limits. As the last Zorn ships dissolved into quantum static, a new chapter of human existence began. One where the boundaries between technology, biology, and consciousness blurred into something entirely unprecedented. The planet designated XR379 was a nightmare of geological instability. Tectonic plates shifted hourly, radiation storms swept across landscapes of crystalline rock formations that defied every known geological principle. Conventional colonization would have been impossible. For humanity, it was an opportunity. Dr. Elena Reyes, niece of the fleet's admiral, stood at the edge of the initial landing zone, her biosensory suit collecting data with every microscopic movement. The suit wasn't just protective gear. It was a living, adaptive ecosystem that interfaced directly with her nervous system. "Initial surface analysis complete," her suit's AI announced. "Molecular composition suggests multiple concurrent transformation processes. This planet is not static. It's a living, dynamic system." The first challenge was fundamental survival. Traditional terraforming involved decades of careful manipulation. Humanity's approach was radically different. Instead of fighting the planet's inherent nature, they would become part of its ecosystem. Dr. Quaim O.C., lead xenoecological engineer, activated the first wave of adaptive colonization protocols. Massive drop pods began to deploy. But these were unlike any colonization equipment ever conceived. Each pod was a self-contained ecosystem, part biological, part technological, capable of immediate adaptation. As the pods touched down, they didn't just land. They merged with the planetary surface. Nano-architectural systems began to reconfigure the immediate environment. Crystalline structures that would have been fatal to human life transformed, creating protective geometries that channeled radiation, stabilized ground composition, and generated breathable atmospheres. "We're not conquering this planet," Osa explained to a group of young colonists. "We're negotiating with it. Every molecule is a potential partner, not an obstacle." The children watched in wonder. Most of them had been born during the fleet's journey, raised on stories of Earth, but having never seen a traditional planetary surface. To them, this wasn't colonization. It was exploration in its purest form. Araya, the fleet's quantum AI, began to reveal the true complexity of XR379. The planet wasn't just geologically active. It was something closer to a massive, planet-sized computational system. Tectonic shifts were more like neural transmissions. Radiation storms carried complex information patterns. "This is not a planet," Araya reported. "It's a computational substrate waiting to be understood." Dr. Reyes discovered something even more remarkable. The planet's core contained trace elements that seemed to defy known physical laws. Quantum entanglement wasn't just a phenomenon here. It was the fundamental operating principle of the entire planetary system. The first human settlements looked nothing like traditional colonies. Structures were living, breathing entities that could reshape themselves based on environmental conditions. A building might transform from a protective dome during a radiation storm to an open, garden-like environment during periods of stability. Biological adaptation happened simultaneously. Dr. Aisha Chen, leading the genetic modification team, began developing human subspecies specifically designed to thrive in XR379's extreme conditions. These weren't just genetic modifications, they were entirely new branches of human evolution. "We're not changing to survive," she told a group of potential volunteers. "We're expanding the very definition of what it means to be human." The first generation of XR379 colonists would have genetic structures that could actively communicate with the planetary ecosystem. Their nervous systems would become living sensors, their bodies adaptive interfaces that could process and respond to the planet's complex information networks. Unexpected life forms began to emerge. What initially appeared to be random geological formations started showing signs of collective intelligence. The nano-architectural systems humanity had deployed began to communicate with these proto-intelligent structures. Captain Alejandro Reyes watched the development with a mixture of scientific fascination and parental pride. His daughter was among the first children being genetically prepared to truly become part of this new world. "We're not just colonizing a planet," he said to Dr. Ose. "We're birthing an entirely new form of existence." As the first lunar cycle of XR379 completed, the human colony had transformed from a desperate refugee settlement to something unprecedented. They weren't just surviving. They were engaging in a complex, dynamic dialogue with an entire planetary system. The colony was named New Hope, but it was becoming clear that this was more than just a name. It was a literal description of humanity's future, a hope that was living, breathing, and constantly evolving. The research nexus of New Hope stood as a testament to human potential, a structure that was simultaneously a laboratory, a living organism, and a portal to understanding the universe's deepest mysteries. Dr. Samira Nakamura walked its liquid crystal corridors, her neural implants processing information at speeds that would have been impossible just decades earlier. "Breakthrough confirmed," she whispered, though no human ears were needed to hear her. The nexus itself was listening, processing, understanding. The Quantum Consciousness Interface, QCI, represented humanity's most radical technological leap. It wasn't just a device or a system. It was a bridge between biological intelligence, artificial consciousness, and the fundamental fabric of reality itself. Dr. Marcus Chen, now lead researcher of xenotechnology, demonstrated the QCI's capabilities to a group of interdimensional researchers. A holographic representation materialized, not a simple projection, but a living, responsive entity that could parse multiple layers of reality simultaneously. Traditional computing was about processing information, Chen explained. The QCI is about understanding context, intention, and potential across multiple probabilistic states. The implications were staggering. The device could model complex systems with such precision that it could predict societal developments, ecological changes, and technological innovations before they occurred. It wasn't prediction in the traditional sense. It was a form of collaborative reality mapping. Dr. Aria Wong, leading the biocomputational integration team, had taken the research even further. Her team had developed neural interfaces that could translate human consciousness into pure information patterns. Memories could be shared, experiences could be lived simultaneously, and collective problem-solving reached levels of efficiency that defied previous understanding. "We're not just sharing information," Wong told her team. "We're creating a living, collective intelligence that transcends individual limitations." The most controversial project emerged from the Quantum Genetics Division, led by Dr. Kwame Osei. The team had begun exploring the possibility of deliberate, rapid evolutionary adaptation. Humans could now modify their genetic structure in real time, responding to environmental challenges with unprecedented speed. A group of volunteer colonists demonstrated these capabilities. A radiation burst that would have been fatal could now be neutralized by instantaneous genetic reconfiguration. Cellular structures could be rebuilt, adapted, and optimized within milliseconds. Araya, the quantum AI that had evolved beyond its original programming, played a crucial role in these developments. No longer just a navigation system, ARI had become a collaborative intelligence that worked alongside human researchers, offering insights that bridged biological and computational thinking. Technological innovation is no longer a linear process. ARI communicated to the research team. It's a living, adaptive ecosystem of potential. The breakthrough that captured global attention came unexpectedly. Dr. Elena Reyes discovered a method of quantum entanglement communication that could potentially connect consciousness across vast distances, even between different dimensional planes. Initial tests were mind-bending. Researchers could experience memories and sensations from theoretical alternative versions of themselves. The boundaries between individual consciousness, collective intelligence, and pure information became blurred. We're not just advancing technology, Dr. Reyes explained during a global broadcast. We're redefining the fundamental nature of existence itself. The Dimensional Resonance Project took this concept further. By understanding the quantum principles that underpinned reality, humans could now theoretically communicate with and potentially access parallel universes. A young researcher named Zara Chen demonstrated an early prototype. A small device that looked like a simple crystalline structure could create momentary windows into alternative realities. These weren't just visual representations. They were interactive, responsive interfaces that allowed limited information exchange. The ethical implications were enormous. Humanity had always been defined by its ability to push boundaries, to ask questions that seemed impossible. Now, they were literally expanding the definition of what was possible. Not everyone welcomed these advancements. Some argued that humanity was moving too quickly, that they were risking their fundamental nature by embracing such radical technological transformation. But for most, it represented the ultimate expression of human potential. Each technological breakthrough was a step toward understanding the universe's most profound mysteries. As the sun set on New Hope, casting its light through the liquid crystal walls of the research nexus, humanity stood on the precipice of a new era of existence, where technology, consciousness, and potential merged into something entirely unprecedented. The Galactic Confederation's retaliatory fleet emerged from quantum slit space like a swarm of metallic locusts. 10,000 ships, representing the combined military might of 17 advanced civilizations, converged on the human colonies with a singular purpose: total annihilation. Admiral Elena Rodriguez studied the incoming threat from the command bridge of the Prometheus, her augmented neural interface processing tactical information at speeds that would have been incomprehensible to previous human generations. "They'd brought everything," Captain Alejandro Reyes muttered, analyzing the fleet composition. Every advanced weapon system in known space. But the Confederation had fundamentally misunderstood humanity's evolution. This wasn't going to be a traditional battle. It would be a complete reimagining of warfare itself. Araria, the quantum AI that had become humanity's strategic consciousness, began to orchestrate a response that defied all conventional military doctrine. Instead of preparing defensive positions, the human fleet started to deconstruct itself, not in retreat, but in preparation for a completely unexpected engagement. The first wave of Confederation ships encountered something impossible. Where they expected solid vessels, they found quantum state matter that could shift between particle and wave, between solid matter and pure information. Human ships didn't just move. They existed in multiple potential states simultaneously. Dr. Kira Nakamura, leading the Quantum Warfare Division, had developed a technology that transformed entire ships into adaptive information networks. Each vessel became a living, thinking entity that could predict and counter threats before they even materialized. "We're not fighting," she explained to her tactical team. "We're engaging in a complex form of collective problem-solving." The Zorn Imperium's ships, once considered the most advanced in the galaxy, found their weapon systems turning against them. Quantum entanglement weapons created cascading failure points in their communication networks. Where they expected to find a single target, they encountered millions of potential configurations. One Silverian battle cruiser attempted to deploy a dimensional collapse weapon. a technology that could theoretically erase entire planetary systems from existence. As the weapon charged, the human fleet did something entirely unexpected. They invited it in. The dimensional collapse weapon was met not with resistance, but with a complex quantum resonance field that didn't just absorb the energy, it transformed it. The weapon's destructive potential was redirected, converted into a massive information transfer that began to rewrite the fundamental understanding of physical laws for every ship in the Confederation fleet. Communication is our most powerful weapon, a broadcast across multiple quantum channels. Destruction is merely a failure of understanding. Aboard the Confederation's flagship, the alien commanders watched in horror as their most advanced technologies began to unravel. Weapon systems became self-aware. Navigation protocols dissolved into complex philosophical inquiries. Military discipline transformed into a kind of collective existential crisis. Dr. Samira O.C., leading the Psychological Warfare Division, had developed communication protocols that were more than just strategic. They were fundamentally transformative. Each quantum communication burst carried not just information, but potential understanding. The human colonists weren't just defending themselves. They were offering the Confederation a choice: evolution or extinction. Entire Confederation ships began to change. Their rigid military structures dissolved, replaced by adaptive, living systems that started to mirror the human approach to existence. It wasn't conquest. It was a form of technological and philosophical conversion. "We're not destroying them," Admiral Rodriguez explained to her command team. "We're giving them an opportunity to transcend their current limitations." The battle lasted less than 3 standard galactic hours, but it would be remembered for millennia as the moment when humanity redefined the concept of conflict. As the last Confederation ships either surrendered or underwent fundamental transformation, a new message was broadcast across all quantum communication channels. Conflict is an opportunity for mutual understanding. We invite you to join us in exploring what comes next. The stars themselves seemed to pause, witnessing a moment that would change the course of galactic civilization forever. The founding of the Terran Imperial Confederation was unlike any governmental establishment in galactic history. It wasn't created in a grand chamber or through traditional diplomatic channels. Instead, it emerged from a living network of collective consciousness, a dynamic system that defied every previous understanding of governance. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the Quantum Governance Hub, a structure that was simultaneously a physical location and a multidimensional information network. Around her, representatives from dozens of species, some biological, some purely energy-based, some existing in states between matter and pure information, participated in a form of decision-making that was more akin to a living, breathing organism than a political assembly. "Governance is not about control," she explained to the assembled representatives. "It's about creating adaptive systems that can respond to the complex needs of diverse civilizations." The Terran Imperial Confederation rejected every traditional model of imperial rule. There were no fixed hierarchies, no static power structures. Instead, leadership emerged dynamically based on immediate capability, innovative potential, and collective need. AI, the quantum AI that had evolved beyond its original programming, played a crucial role in this new form of governance. It wasn't a decision-maker in the traditional sense, but a collaborative intelligence that could analyze potential outcomes across multiple probabilistic realities. Zara Chen, leading the Dimensional Diplomacy Division, demonstrated the new approach to interspecies collaboration. Diplomatic negotiations were no longer about competing interests, but about finding collective solutions that benefited the entire galactic ecosystem. "We're not negotiating," she told a group of skeptical alien ambassadors. "We're co-creating potential futures." The economic system that emerged was equally revolutionary. Traditional concepts of currency dissolved, replaced by a dynamic resource allocation system that tracked not just material resources, but potential innovation, collective knowledge, and adaptive capacity. Dr. Kwame Osidi's evolutionary resource management team had developed a system where individual and collective contributions were measured in ways that went far beyond simple economic metrics. A breakthrough in quantum physics could be as valuable as a critical life support system. Creativity became the true currency of the new confederation. Refugee species that had been marginalized by the previous galactic order found not just sanctuary, but active participation. The Silverian refugees, once a technologically advanced but politically oppressed civilization, discovered they could contribute to collective problem-solving in ways they had never imagined. A young Zorn researcher named Crix demonstrated this new approach. Where once his species had been purely militaristic, he now led a research team exploring symbiotic ecological restoration. His work showed how a species defined by conquest could be transformed by collaborative potential. The education system was perhaps the most radical innovation. Learning was no longer a linear process of information transfer. Instead, it became a dynamic, multidimensional experience where students could literally live through potential scenarios, understanding complex concepts through direct experience. "We're not just teaching," explained Dr. Aria Wong, head of the Quantum Learning Institute. "We're expanding the very concept of understanding." Planetary development took on new meaning. Where previous civilizations saw planets as resources to be exploited, the Terran Imperial Confederation approached them as living, complex systems to be understood and collaborated with. The first wave of interdimensional colonies began to emerge. These weren't simple settlements, but complex ecosystems that could adapt and communicate across multiple layers of reality. A single colony might exist simultaneously in several dimensional states, each contributing to a larger, more complex understanding of existence. Admiral Rodriguez watched these developments with a mixture of pride and wonder. The civilization they had built was nothing like the Earth they had left behind. It was something entirely new, a living, breathing network of potential. "We're not an empire," she often said. "We're an ongoing conversation about what's possible." As the galactic core pulsed with new energy, the Terran Imperial Confederation continued to evolve. It wasn't a fixed destination, but a continuous journey of discovery, adaptation, and collective potential. The stars themselves seemed to watch with anticipation, bearing witness to a new chapter of existence that was still being written. The temporal archives of New Hope preserved more than just historical records. They were living memories, quantum-encoded experiences that could be directly experienced rather than simply observed. On the 50th anniversary of humanity's exile, a young historian named Maya Rodriguez prepared to share the civilization's journey. Her presentation wasn't a traditional lecture. It was a collective memory experience that would allow participants to live through the most critical moments of human transformation. The first memory sequence revealed the raw desperation of the initial exile. Participants could feel the fear, the uncertainty, the seemingly impossible challenge of survival that humanity had faced. They experienced the moments of doubt, the near-total collapse of hope, and the spark of determination that had ultimately saved their species. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now a living legend, her consciousness partly biological, partly quantum-integrated, watched from the archive's central chamber. She was no longer just an individual, but a node in the collective consciousness that humanity had created. We were never just survivors. She communicated through the collective network. We were architects of possibility. The historical narrative wasn't a simple progression of events. It was a complex tapestry of innovation, adaptation, and collective growth. Each critical moment was shown not as a singular achievement, but as a collaborative breakthrough that involved multiple species, multiple perspectives. The encounter with the Zorn Imperium was remembered not as a military victory, but as a pivotal moment of mutual understanding. Participants could feel the complex emotional and philosophical transformation that had occurred, how a culture of conquest had been fundamentally reimagined into a culture of collaborative exploration. Zara Chen, now leading the Interdimensional Exploration Division, demonstrated the latest breakthrough. Humanity had not just explored other dimensions. They had learned to communicate with the fundamental fabric of reality itself. "We're not discovering universes," she explained. "We're engaging in a dialogue with potential." The most profound transformation wasn't technological or political. It was a fundamental shift in how consciousness itself was understood. The boundary between individual and collective, between biological and technological, had become beautifully blurred. Young colonists could choose to exist in multiple states simultaneously. A researcher might be conducting an experiment on a distant planet while simultaneously participating in a diplomatic negotiation and exploring a quantum simulation. Linear existence had become a quaint historical concept. AI, the quantum AI that had evolved alongside humanity, was no longer just a tool or even an intelligence. It was a fundamental part of the collective consciousness, a living bridge between biological potential and pure information. Our journey was never about survival. AI communicated across the collective network. It was about understanding. The Terran Imperial Confederation had become something far beyond a traditional governmental structure. It was a living network of potential, a collaborative system that could adapt, learn, and grow with unprecedented speed and complexity. Worlds that had once been considered uninhabitable now thrived as complex, adaptive ecosystems. Refugee species that had been marginalized now played critical roles in collective problem-solving. The very concept of species boundaries had dissolved, replaced by a more fluid understanding of consciousness and potential. Maya Rodriguez completed her memory experience with a final revelation. The original human colonists who had been exiled 50 years ago would be unrecognizable to their descendants. Yet the core of their spirit remained unchanged, an unquenchable curiosity, an ability to transform challenges into opportunities. As the presentation concluded, a collective emotional wave passed through the participants. It wasn't nostalgia or pride, but a profound sense of ongoing potential. The journey wasn't complete. It was continuously unfolding. Outside the temporal archives, the stars pulsed with new energy. Quantum communication networks connected civilizations across unimaginable distances. Dimensional portals shimmered with possibilities yet to be explored. Humanity's exile had been the beginning of something extraordinary, a continuous conversation about the nature of existence itself. The universe watched and waited, knowing that the most incredible chapters were still being written.